So, for those of you who just watched the video on me putting the windows back together on my 55 truck, the sketchy truck here, took it out. It's awesome. It's so quiet. I can hear the engine, man, I love it. And then, bad things. I got about 20 miles on the truck and the transmission went out. Just dead out. Matter of fact, I'm not even sure what it is. The fluid is full. It acted like it didn't have any, because first it was in third and then it revved and slipped and then went into second, and then it wouldn't go into third but stayed in second, so I kept making progress home, and then it went into first, and then it just didn't do anything. And reverse doesn't work. The vehicle will not move if you have it in park, but if you put it in any gear, it doesn't engage. In first gear, if you pull the stick all the way into first, if you rev it really high, it'll move just a little bit, and I actually managed to get it in to my shop that way, but I had to tow it home. So we're gonna have to pull the engine and tranny out of it. It's not all bad. Quite frankly, when I bought this unit, the engine and tranny came with it. They weren't in it. It was an unknown quantity. The fact that it worked at all, I should be really kind of happy about. But it's time for a rebuild of the transmission. And the engine, I've got an oil leak and a coolant leak, and I've been meaning to do something about that. And I didn't really want to go through the trouble of pulling the engine out just to fix that. But since I'm pulling the engine and tranny, I'll fix that while it's out. So, back to work. Here we go. First thing I gotta do, I gotta get that battery disconnected, because I'm about to put it up in the air and do some stuff underneath to get it ready to pull, and I don't want any juice down in the starter when I disconnect it. So, let's get started. So as a rule, I always shake them on the lift before I get them any further than just off the ground. I get maybe, I don't know, 2 to 4 inches of clearance. Give it a good shake, because if it's going to come down, I want it to come down here, not up there. And definitely not on me. Let's roll. So, not surprising, I got oil dripping on the ground. You can see the transmission pan is slathered in motor oil. That's not transmission fluid, that's black motor oil, which apparently is coming from, you know, here and here and right there and up here, and yeah. So what happened? I don't know. All right, well, we're gonna start pulling stuff apart. I'm actually gonna start with the transmission. Did I say that? No. The exhaust bolts. I'm gonna take off the header bolts, both sides, and I've actually, when I put this together, I welded bracketry up. Let's see if we can get you in a little tighter here. I welded bracketry that goes up to the frame right there. And so I'll take this whole section down on both sides and set that aside, and that way the headers can clear everything. We'll get the drive shaft detached, and from there we should be good to go. With the big stuff, probably I will wait and get the engine bolts out till I'm up top. Not real fond of having that loose when I'm underneath the vehicle. And then I'll make sure the crossmember bracketry is able to be loosened up and be ready to come out as well. Again, I can't drop it, but I can loosen it and make sure it's good to go. And then if I can reach it, it might be easier to get the starter wiring from down here than from up top. But then again, maybe not. So, exhaust, drive shaft, that's where we start. So I was just about to pull the engine, and when I went to lift it, the header is hitting the cross member. Ugh, I forgot that I had to install the engine and then the headers. So I'm in the middle of pulling the headers off, and then I'll be ready to yank the engine out. The engine and tranny obviously come out as a pair. Oh, goodness, such fun. All right, let's get back to work. Well, it's out. I had to pick the hottest day of the year. It's literally, actually, breaking records today, setting new records, high temperatures, 100+ degrees. 1185,000. It's very hot, but it's out, you know, and that's what I needed. I had to take the headers off. I don't know why I thought I could get away without having to take them off, but yeah, that didn't work. But in pulling everything apart, I can see that everything's working right, so that's good news. It's running good. The spark plugs all look good. I'm going to change them all anyway, clean everything up. While it's out, I'll give the engine probably a little refresh. Probably nothing major, but I'm going to change the oil pan gasket because it's leaking. I think I might put new timing gears in it just because. I mean, it's out. If there's a time to do it, this is it. The engine runs really good, so this would be the time to do it though. I don't have any big blow-by issues. I don't have, you know, a lot of smoke. So I think it's worth investing a little bit into it. So pull the water pump, maybe replace that too while I'm at it. But definitely pull the timing gear off, the whole assembly, replace all that goodness in there. And we'll just be that much farther ahead for it. So I think it's the right thing to do. All right, well, I gotta set her down. And we can get the transmission separated from the engine and get those two divorced, and then I can see about getting this guy rebuilt. So, all right, onward. Okay, so I took off the 6 bolts that hold the transmission to the engine, and that just pulls apart. Okay, I had it down here when I pulled it apart, so I didn't have to do a lot of heavy lifting. Now, to remove your torque converter, you got these bolts that are on there, and these bad boys should not be too hard to get off. I think they're grade 8 if I remember, and I think 9/16 on this guy. But point being, you just take off those 3 bolts. This comes off, and it's heavy. Be prepared, because it weighs a ton, and it's probably about half full of fluid. It would not be surprising. So it weighs even more. They're heavy normally when they're empty, but they're really heavy when they're full. So be prepared. Have a strong friend ready, or lower that bad boy down, or drop it on something you don't care about, but don't get it on your toes, and be aware that if this end tips down, it's going to leak tranny fluid all over the place. So just, take it easy with that. So that's my next step. Take that bad boy off. No. Goodness, who put that on there? So I got the engine and tranny out, and I got a few issues. One is I got oil leaks everywhere on this thing. When I bought the truck, the engine and tranny were already out, and so I just cleaned them up, gave them a coat of paint, and put them in the truck. Unknown quantity, assuming they'd work, but didn't know for sure. And the one thing that's definitely become clear is got major oil leaks along the front of the intake up here, and around the timing chain cover. And also, sometimes it feels like the timing is sloppy, and I'm wondering if the timing gear set is bad or about to be bad. And so I'm going to pull it apart and just replace those gears. I got it out of the truck. I'm not going to get an easier time to do it, and it ought to solve any of those little weird timing type issues that I'm having. So that's where we're going to go right now. Taking it all apart. All the front accessories got to come off. Water pump, alternator, all that stuff. Here we go. Alright, so I need to put my puller on here. So I've got the center bolt loose, and what I'm going to do is put a washer on these long nuts, and then these long bolts rather, and then screw them in to the harmonic balancer like that. So I've already pulled the pulley off. That was held on by three bolts which go into the harmonic balancer. But what I'm trying to do here is get these guys all started into the same 3 holes that held on the pulley. And get them as straight and even as I can. Like that. And all I got to do is just tighten that center guy there, and we are good to go. Just tighten that down, and this will walk that right off there. I just got to find the right size bolt for that. I must be getting tired. I'm calling everything by the wrong names. I'm sure you guys have figured that out already. There we go. That's my boy. We'll just go nice and slow here. We're not in a big hurry. That's being stubborn. Goodness. Well, I couldn't find a longer bolt that'll fit, so I just put a socket in there instead. That way we won't mangle the threads. There it goes, finally. Goodness. Woo, buddy. I wasn't sure that was ever going to come off. All right, so now we just got these 50 million bolts around the timing cover. We'll pop her right off. Okay, so I got everything off the front of the engine, and got the harmonic balancer off, and the bolts out of the timing chain cover. And I tell you what, that stuff, you turn an engine upside down, she makes a mess. That's all there is to it. Just want to warn you. All right, so I gotta get the starter off, and then once the starter's off, I can go ahead and get the oil pan off, remove that timing gear cover, and we should be ready to go. there's some chunks in here. That's not good news. But before I got it, when I poured the oil out of this thing, it was like tar coming out, and it had clearly not been changed anytime recently. And putting this fresh oil in there, I've got about 4,000 miles on it, give or take. So it was about due for a change anyway, but it was clear that this thing was not super well cared for. That's not good stuff there. That's bad. That's lumpy. But, you know, this is the time to be checking this out, looking everything over. Alright, so we got 2-bolt main. I don't see any scarring. Pieces missing anywhere. I could definitely rotate this and get a better look. I'll clean my hands first though. Stuff's already dirty enough without me spreading it more, but now that was easier said than done. Alright, let's rotate it around here. Looking for anything clearly damaged on the cam. Boy, it looks real pretty up in there. It really does. As dirty as this is, all the metal surfaces look good. I wonder if those chunks aren't just dirt, because it looked like it'd been eating dirt. Just didn't look like they'd been taking care of that. There's oil changes, but the metal surfaces look real pretty. I don't see anything scary in here. I'm gonna take a look at the cylinder walls, but from right here they look good. They look real good, in fact. I'm going to shine a light down in there and get a better look, but at just a peek, they look fantastic. There are some tight tolerances in here. Those pistons have a tang on the bottom of them and it just barely clears the crank, but it does clear. Oh, she looks good. Well, I've shown a flashlight down into all the cylinders and they look fantastic. They really do. Everything looks smooth and clean. I don't see any scoring or scraping. Everything looks good. The cam looks good. Everything looks great from what I can see rotating it around, looking at every surface that I can see. I don't see any issues. I think the dirt that's in the pan is exactly that, just dirt. Let's pull this guy off here. And no surprise it's leaking. This gasket is hard as a rock, but the chain is not. All right, there it is. Yeah, boy, she is worn. I was like, boy, it's nice and tight. Yeah, not so much. That's a heck of a lot of play. Yeah, I wondered because, boy, it seemed like it was almost jumping timing. Sometimes it would almost seem like it was self-adjusting the timing. You know, if it's that loose, it's definitely time to change her out. I was going to get a whole new gear set and everything. I don't see any point in trying to pretend that everything's okay. Clearly, It's very worn. And I mean, it's slipping even up in here, it's moving around. And actually that might be where some of those chunks come from, because I can see little pieces of the corners of the teeth are missing where the chain's been chattering around and banging in here. So yeah, I'm glad I pulled that apart. I had a feeling I should, and by golly, I will. So what I'm looking for here is I got registration marks. So you've got one on the big wheel, or one on the big gear and one on the small gear. And before I pull these off, I want to make sure that those two registration marks line up. I want them lined up right here. And by doing that, that's going to make sure that it's easy to realign everything, put it all back on, and have it all line up the way I want it. So always, if you have the option, make sure those registration marks are lined up so you can be sure that everything goes back together the right way. So the timing, you know, if it was running fine, you know, in this case, this is preventative, and boy, not a moment too soon. I know I keep stumbling, but my goodness. I mean, part of that might be I'm tired, but I mean, that's so loose, it's hitting the housing over here. It's actually able to hit the block casting. So yeah, that's bad. All right, so now I got to try and line up those registration marks, which can be a little tricky. You may have to turn things more than once to get them to go where you want. Okay. I might get lucky. They might line up. By gum, they are going to line up. Put this guy down before I stab myself with it. That's what pockets are made for. There we go. Yeah, so I got this registration mark pointed straight down, this registration mark pointed straight up. Now I can pull it apart as long as I don't rotate anything anymore. Now I can pull that apart, and those guys will, when I line them back up again, they'll go right back in place. And it'll be real easy to make sure that everything's in the right place that way. So, yeah, boy, that guy's bad. Yeah, there's some chips out of some of these teeth, and I bet that's where those chunks are coming from in the oil pan, because I don't see anything in the rotating assembly back here that would cause, that would look like that. So other than the fact that this bad boy is really, really dirty, I think it's in good shape. And so I'm going to give it a good clean, and new gear set, new gaskets all around. We're going to replace all these water inlet gaskets, the timing cover gasket, oil pan gasket, the seals over the rear main, front main. We'll replace all that goodness, and I also will, after I get all that done, I'm going to take the intake off, and I'm also going to reseal that. It's leaking real bad along the valley right there, as you can see, and that's actually a major cause of our leak, probably front and back, but definitely in front. So, all right, that's good, lined up, ready to come apart. Just wanted to get you in here real quick and real close. So there's the top gear, the large gear and the small gear, and you can see the registration mark there and right there. So those are lined up. So that way, if I pull this apart, when I put the new gear set together, I just make sure everything's lined up, and it'll slide right on there. It'll be good to go. So I got those 3 bolts out, and this then just kind of wiggles off. Pull that guy out of there, and now we just got to get that top one off. All right, there we go. It's worn. It's shiny, and some of the teeth are. Let's see if I can get you in front of the camera here. Hey, there it is. I don't know if this will focus on this or not. Some of the teeth are jagged and funky. You can see the shine on the tips of those. They got grooves worn in them. Yeah, it was definitely time. I'm glad I took that time to take that apart. I am not going to regret that. Well, maybe at least not in terms of it was a good move, but it's a lot of work. Anyway, I think that's about it for tonight. We're going to get those new parts ordered and get those bad boys in. All right, let's work this bad boy off of here. It is leaking fiercely. Wow, I thought it was going to be hard to come off. It's like, it's almost fallen off. I thought it might be hard to wrestle it loose here, but it's looking pretty good. I just missed a bolt. Goodness! I know. I'm ridiculous. Y'all have never done that before. Just me. Yippers. I'm the only person ever. Nope. Definitely not. Anyway, here we go. Let's get this bad boy off here and take a look at what we got. There we go. She's going to use now. There it goes. All right. I'm glad I brought new seals. This one's toast. I blew a hole there. Huh, I don't think that just happened when I lifted it off. It might have. Not sure about that. But I'm glad I took it off. This front seal here and this one here are both leaking oil all over this thing. So we are going to be getting rid of those bad boys. We're just going to put a nice slick layer of goop on there and be done with it. Old school, baby. We're going old school. All right, let's set this aside. Yeah, these valley gaskets, or I don't know what you call them, pan gasket. This gasket across the front and the back. I'm sure they have a name, and I'm sure I don't know what it is, and I'm sure not too worried about it. All right, let's get this bad boy cleaned up. Overall, it looks pretty good. There's a lot of goop in the water jacket in the back here. So we'll put some cleaner down there, but overall it looks pretty good. Although I see where at some point it was backfiring. It hasn't done that with me, but there's all kinds of black in these ports, and that would suggest backfiring. Or, well, it almost has to be because it's coming up that way. I was going to say, or it's oil, but that would be in the exhaust. It shouldn't be coming up this way. So somebody had the timing really goofed up at one point or other and had her backfiring through the exhaust. Either that or it was extremely flooded. But I have not had that problem. So good so far. All right, let's get to it.